Hello everyone, today's topic is about quadratic equations in the form of x squared equals to k. So if we are given an equation like this, we have to think about x squared equals to k as x equivalent to plus minus the square root of k if k is more than 0. If x is equivalent to 0, we say that k is actually 0. Okay, now what if there are no real solutions? If there are no real solutions, we say that k is less than 0. Okay, now in this case, in the form of x squared equals to k, we must always make sure that x squared here is positive. And the reason is because it is easier to solve if we have just the positive number on its own. Okay, so if we are given here an example of 3 minus 2x squared equals to 7, alright, in this case we notice that minus 2x squared is actually a negative number, so all we need to do is just swap sides. So if we have minus 2x squared on the left hand side, we bring minus 2x squared to the right hand side, so it becomes 2x squared. Okay, and the 7 which is on the right hand side will be moved to the left hand side to become minus 7. So we have 3 minus 7. Okay, now in this case here, we can just rearrange it so that 2x squared is on the left and 3 minus 7 is on the, so it's easier to solve when you have the subject of the variable on the left hand side. Okay, so in this case here, x squared is 3 minus 7 is minus 4, divided by 2 here is negative 2. But then again, when x squared is equivalent to minus 2, we won't have any solution because k has to be more than 0 or has to be 0. So in this case, what we can write here is, we will say that there will be no solution. Alright, moving on with part B, we are given 3x minus 2 squared equals to 4. Right, so we notice that there is a square and also the bracket that contains the 3x minus 2 expression, and if we have a problem like this, all we need to do is we need to square root both sides. So if we square root both sides, we have to make sure that the square root 4 on the right hand side would be plus and minus. Alright, so if you are given a k value here which is more than 0, you must always think of plus minus the square root of that particular value. Okay, so again, on the left hand side, the square root and the square will be cancelled and you're left with 3x minus 2. Square root of 4 will give you 2, and with the plus and the minus, you will have a plus minus 2. Alright, so now if we are going to solve it, 3x minus 2 is to 2, or 3x minus 2 is to negative 2. So in this case here, we will treat this as two separate equations. So 3x equals to 2 on the right hand side, and if you have a minus 2 on the left hand side, bring the minus 2 to the right, become 4. Okay, and x here would be 4 out of 3. Now the other one, we will have 3x minus 2 equals to minus 2. We have 3x on the left hand side, bring over the minus 2 to the right hand side, it becomes plus 2, and therefore it becomes a 0 when you add it to minus 2, and therefore x here will give you a value of 0. So therefore x can take a value of 0 or 4 over 3. Okay, now when we have another problem as x plus 3 and squared for this expression, and we have a minus 1, same thing will happen. We will make sure that we have to square root both sides. X plus 3 squared equals to square root of minus 1. Okay, cancel the square root and you're left with x plus 3 equals to square root of negative 1. But we have to remember that we cannot have a square root of negative 1. We must have this as a positive number. So therefore, for the time being, we will say there will be no solution. When you move on into year 11, you will come across that a square root of negative 1 here is actually an imaginary number, but that you will learn in year 11. The final example that I have at this moment is x plus 5 squared equals to 3. Okay, so in this case, here, as we have seen before, when we have a square on the left hand side, and if we are trying to get rid of it to allow the x to be the subject, just make sure that we square root both sides. Alright, so you have x plus 5 squared equals to square root of 3. But remember, when you have a square root of a positive number, you must think of a plus and also a minus as well. Okay, so you cancel the square root and the square on the left hand side, and you're left with x plus 5 equals to plus minus square root 3. Alright, and to solve this, you will have x plus 5 equals to positive number of square root 3, or x plus 5 equals to minus square root 3. Okay, this particular term that we have, minus square root 3, is very different from the square root of a negative number, because we are treating this as a different sign. Okay, so when we have x plus 5 equals to square root 3, we leave x on the left hand side, bring the plus 5 to the right hand side, it becomes minus 5 plus square root 3. Right, and in this case here, x, we bring the plus 5 to the next side, it will be minus 5 minus square root 3. My suggestion here is that when you have a surd form for the answers, just leave it as it is, because it gets very complicated when you try to leave it in decimals, because there are a number of values that go behind the particular value. Alright, unless the question specifies to you that you need to have the answers in 3 decimal places or 2 decimal places. Alright, if you're not sure how to do this particular chapter, or you're feeling lost, you can definitely consult me in class, or you can see me in the staff room. Alright, thank you very much.